Hi, I'm Christopher, and welcome to the Spirit Bear Journal. I decided to finally pick this up because I was reading my Bible through for the 21st time today, and I came to 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 16 and 17, and just one too many discrepancies struck me. And so I'm just going to start making some commentaries, brief commentaries on these, and talking about what it is that is wrong with these scriptures. So, um, the first thing I have here is you can see it's the Greek version of the New Testament. It's the Leningrad Codex, which is the earliest complete New Testament that we have available. Um, the original Greek New Testament. So you can see that I have it. It's spelled out here in plain Greek so that it's easy to read. And if you want to, you can make that bigger and look at it bigger. But I'm going to go through this a little bit because I'm just going to read to you, first of all, the New International Version, which is widely accepted right up there with the King James Version and the New King James Version. And so in the King James Version, it says, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person, for God's temple is sacred, and you together are that temple." Well, that's a mistranslation, and it adds words in, and it gives a totally different understanding of what is being said here. And of course, this is being done by the Christian apologists. I want to mention them early on because they will destroy anybody who comes out and says anything is wrong with their translation and their understanding of what the Bible says. And there can be no defiance of what they say. So this is why I find that there's a significant problem with the Bible as we go through it, is that, it's being intentionally mistranslated for a particular doctrinal purpose of what they want to accomplish. So, what exactly am I seeing in here that's bothering me so much? I have to get on the internet and talk about it. Well, I copied this first verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 3:16. You can see it right there. And it's right here in this. Okay, so you can see what the Greek says, and you can see what the New International Version says right down here. Okay, so I'm going to read the English version of this because probably very few people will see this who actually read the Greek. Um, Basically, it's saying, are you not aware, are you not aware that the temple of God ye are, and that the Spirit of God is homing in you, literally homing in you. And I'll come back to that because that's an interesting thing too that we'll make a comment on. Um, and basically, let me point out here that number one, it says ye are. This is the correct translation of this, and this is not the plural you, but the singular reference to an individual, ye are, este, you are. Um, Not having perceived that, aren't you aware that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God is homing in you? It's making its home in you. So it's this again. This word right here is ye, and though it's translated as the plural you. So look at what happens here whenever you allow them to get away with this. Down here in the New International Version, it says, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple?" So now we got plural. They put plural in here. Whenever it's actually, if you see up here, the actual translation, it's written in a singular version, a singular you the individual, that you yourselves, that you are God's temple. Okay, so now they've pluralized this verse, and that God's Spirit here, it says, dwells in you. Look at it says dwells, the Spirit of God is homing in ye, you personally. This is what the original Greek says, but they want to say it dwells in your midst. Why would they do that? Why would they change this into a plurality? Well, they want to make this to be something that they have changed it to give authority to the church institution, not the church, the people, but the church institution. That's what they're doing here. And that's what the Christian apologists will fight you over that and say, well, no, this doesn't say that at all. And it's not really a plural. It's not really a singular thing here. But it is. It's a singular you that it's referring to. Um, so that's the first verse. And I'm going to scroll down here and I've got the second verse here. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17, all in Greek here, and it's in English, it's up here. But you can read again the difference, the point that they're making. They twist this around to serve their own purpose. If anyone destroys God's temple, by the Christian apologist version of this, they're talking about the church. If you destroy the church, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is sacred, and you together are that temple. Do you see the word together down here any place? So they are making an interpretation, and they're making a wrong interpretation, and they have reason to do that. I'm not saying that there isn't an interpretation where you could say that that's what this means, but that's not what it actually says. What it actually says, if anyone is corrupting, not destroys, but is corrupting the temple of God. They restructure their Greek so that, that's the way Greek is structured. They put the subjects up out here first, the objects first, and then they give you the verb. And then it says, shall be corrupting that one, not him, but that one, the God. God's going to do that. And the temple of God is holy, sacred, holy. Okay, I'll give him that. Is which are you? So the temple of God, holy is, which are you? Singular ye. Okay, that's what in English we no longer have the singular you. We don't use ye except whenever we're praying the Our Father and those kinds of things, and we're using the ancient English then. That ye has been dropped in modern English. So now you've got here, if anyone destroys the temple of God, God's temple, it's actually corrupts it, then God will corrupt that person. Well, that applies individually to people. If you're not taking care of yourself, God will destroy you. And that's not the threat from God. That's just a natural consequence of not taking care of yourself. But we know that what Jesus taught is to take care of yourself and to do that by obeying the laws of God. And if you read the laws of God the way Jesus does it, it really makes you into a fine, upstanding person. And then it says, for God's temple is sacred. Yeah, you, that person with the Spirit of God in it, is sacred. And you, singular, no together, are that temple. So you can go through this and isolate and freeze this at any point if you want to, but and read back through all of that. But the more accurate translation, I'm just doing my own translation here. Aren't you aware that you are the temple of God? Not the church. The church is too, but in a Actually, what this does is it blurs the differences between you and ye. And in the original Greek, it does do that a little bit so that the Christian apologists have an excuse for what they're doing. And that's okay. So, but as you can tell, I may not like most of the Christian apologists very much. Anyway, aren't you aware that you are the temple of God and that God's Spirit is homing in ye? And you notice that up here I put you aware that you are the temple of God because that's what it says. It's got more of a you reference up there instead of a ye. And that God's Spirit is homing in ye because that's what the Greek says. And if anyone corrupts God's temple, God will be corrupting, it doesn't say him or her or them, it says that one. God will be corrupting that one. And for God's temple is holy, which is ye. So that's the more literal translation. And so you can see that what are they referring to you? Which is ye. They're not referring to the holy, which in English we would be saying, okay, that's referring to the holy. They're referring to God's temple, which is ye. So it's spelled out here in the original Greek that you are the individual, are the temple of God. And, altogether, yeah, we are all the temple of God. The church is the temple of God, but it is not the church without the individuals. It is the church made up of the individuals. So I want to point out something here. Let's take a look at it. It says right here in the first verse, God's Spirit is homing in ye. Now, this is a little wild speculation, but I watched a bunch of those near-death experience videos on YouTube at one point, and it was very interesting that um, a lot of the people who experienced a near-death experience, they all said, and I don't know of any that didn't say this, but probably there's somebody out there who didn't really think it or feel it, but they were all said that they felt like they had come home and they did not want to leave. So, this verse of using this verb, homing, is making the home in you. God's Spirit is homing in you, is the literal translation. That is really interesting to me because I'm wondering if that's not going to show up elsewhere in the Bible, in the New Testament, where the Christians are teaching us about um, how the Spirit, since we're in this physical body and when we die, if you have a near death experience, you feel like you're at home and you don't want to come back here and you want to stay at home. And even while we're here on earth, we feel like we're looking for home. We're all really attached to our family. And if you have a good family, then you're really attached to them. And that's going home. Wherever family is, that's where home is. And this whole sense of home inside of each one of us, that is us searching for connection with God. So, that, of course, is my speculation and my philosophy and my idea about the homing. The rest of this is pretty well spelled out that the church and the Christian apologists are twisting the original Greek meanings of things to suit what their doctrines and dogmas are, and they're trying to get support and create more authority for the church. So, and that's pretty much all I wanted to say on this. But it just kind of caught me that these verses are talking about one thing in the Greek, and they get twisted by the new translation in the New International Version, talking about you yourselves, plural, and God dwells in, not in you. They change it to dwells in your midst, among all the people. And then they are making a reference to, if you destroy the church, which is them, they are the religious institution, then God will destroy that person, and so that justifies the church destroying people. For God's temple is sacred, their church is sacred, and you together are that temple. But the word together isn't in there either. And this does not say what the original Greek scriptures says. In the original Greek scriptures, it says more accurately, are you, and that could be implied a plural right here, aware that you are the temple of God and that God's Spirit is homing in ye, the singular person? If anyone corrupts God's temple, which is ye, the individual, God will be corrupting that one. Now, it might be you're corrupting yourself or somebody else is corrupting you, but whoever, if anyone corrupts God's temple, God will be corrupting that one. Well, that's just the natural consequences of corrupting God's temple. For God's temple is holy, which is ye, the individual in person. So, okay, I've ranted enough. Blessings to all of you guys. And I hope to keep on doing this because I just kind of reached my breaking point and I need to speak up and say something about these mistranslations that are found in the Bible. Bless you guys. Bye bye.